One key issue is voter suppression, which has a long history in the U.S., especially targeting Black communities. After Reconstruction, strategies like poll taxes, literacy tests, and other barriers were used to keep Black people from voting. Even after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, new tactics emerged, like voter ID laws, voter roll purges, and limited polling sites, which still disproportionately affect Black voters today. Another important area is unequal education funding. Schools in predominantly Black neighborhoods often get less funding because they rely on property taxes. This results in fewer resources and affects educational outcomes, creating lasting economic disparities. Environmental injustice also plays a role. Black neighborhoods are more likely to be located near sources of pollution like factories and landfills, often due to zoning decisions. This has led to higher rates of health issues like asthma in these communities. Finally, Black veterans have historically faced barriers accessing GI Bill benefits after World War II. Due to discriminatory practices, many Black veterans missed out on home loans and educational opportunities that helped others build wealth and stability. These factors highlight how systemic decisions have led to ongoing inequalities in areas like voting, education, health, and economic opportunities for Black Americans. Racial wealth gap, a legacy of centuries of discrimination. Black families on average hold far less wealth than white families, even when income is similar. This is rooted in practices like exclusion from high-paying jobs, discriminatory lending, redlining, and lack of generational wealth. Wealth disparities affect everything from home ownership to education and health outcomes. The criminal justice system is another area with a complex relationship with Black America. Black individuals are disproportionately policed, arrested, and incarcerated, partly due to policies like the war on drugs, which led to harsh sentencing and mass incarceration. This has deep economic and social impacts on Black families, leading to lost income, limited job prospects, and strained family structures. Health disparities are also key. Due to systemic inequities, Black Americans often experience worse health outcomes and less access to quality health care. Issues like higher maternal mortality rates, greater prevalence of chronic diseases, and shorter life expectancies are all linked to social determinants of health, shaped by policies and resource allocation. Another area to consider is media representation. Historically, the portrayal of Black people in media has often been negative or limited, reinforcing stereotypes that influence public perception and policy. In recent years, there's been more focus on positive representation, but the media has long played a role in shaping the narrative around Black communities. Employment discrimination is also crucial. Despite legal protections, Black people often face biases in hiring, promotion, and wages. Studies have shown that job applicants with Black-sounding names receive fewer callbacks, and wage gaps persist even with similar qualifications. These interconnected factors all contribute to the structural barriers faced by Black Americans in areas like economic mobility, health, education, and representation. There's also a deep history of resilience, activism, and cultural contributions from Black Americans that's essential to understand. Black communities have continually pushed for social change and justice, often leading broader movements that transformed American society. The abolitionist movement, civil rights movement, Black Power movement, and more recently, Black Lives Matter are all examples of organized efforts to combat injustice and push for systemic change. Culturally, Black Americans have profoundly influenced American music, literature, art, and fashion. Genres like jazz, blues, hip-hop, and gospel originated in Black communities, shaping global music culture. Writers like James Baldwin, Zora Neale Hurston, and Toni Morrison have provided powerful insights into the Black experience, while artists like Jacob Lawrence and Faith Ringgold visually documented the struggles and beauty of Black life. Education has always been a priority for Black communities, even in the face of significant barriers. Historically, Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, were established as safe spaces for education during segregation and remain vital institutions for cultivating Black leaders, professionals, and scholars. Community solidarity and mutual aid have also been essential. In the face of limited support from broader institutions, Black communities have built networks to support each other economically, socially, and emotionally. From churches to local organizations, this support system has fostered resilience and provided resources where society often failed to do so. Finally, the Black American experience has profoundly influenced ideas about justice and democracy in the U.S. Black activists and thinkers have continually challenged the country to live up to its ideals of equality and liberty, inspiring others to question and reshape the system. The story of Black America is one of both struggle and strength, with ongoing contributions that help shape the nation's identity and future. Another major topic is healthcare discrimination. Historically, Black Americans have faced inadequate medical treatment and mistrust toward healthcare systems, partly because of unethical experiments like the Tuskegee study and sterilization practices targeting Black women. Today, biases in healthcare can lead to Black patients receiving less pain management, fewer diagnostic tests, and less aggressive treatment options, which can worsen health disparities. There's also the legacy of forced labor after the Civil War through practices like convict leasing. Although slavery was formally abolished in 1865, the 13th Amendment allowed an exception for punishment of crimes. Southern states capitalized on this by arresting Black people on minor or fabricated charges, then leasing them to private companies for labor, essentially extending forced labor well into the early 20th century. Another example is the history of underfunded Black neighborhoods due to discriminatory policies, which has also created food deserts, where fresh and affordable food is hard to access. This food insecurity contributes to health problems and reinforces cycles of poverty. Black farmers have also faced discrimination from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA. For decades, Black farmers were denied loans, grants, and support that their white counterparts received, leading to the loss of millions of acres of Black-owned farmland. This has greatly impacted generational wealth and food sovereignty in Black communities. Education disparities also extend to curriculum. Historically, American history has been taught from a Eurocentric perspective, often minimizing or omitting the Black experience and contributions. Only recently has there been a push to include Black history, but resistance persists in some states, limiting a fuller understanding of American history. Additionally, urban renewal projects in the mid-20th century often targeted Black neighborhoods for demolition. Homes and businesses were destroyed to build highways and commercial buildings, displacing thousands of families. This dismantling of Black neighborhoods severed community bonds, disrupted local economies, and has contributed to ongoing gentrification issues today. All these layers of discrimination and neglect from different institutions have had cumulative effects, creating systemic barriers that impact nearly every aspect of life. These legacies are not only historical, they continue to shape outcomes today, highlighting why there is an ongoing need for policy change, reparative justice, and systemic reform. For instance, the role of banks and financial institutions in widening the racial wealth gap is significant. Black Americans have historically faced discrimination in banking through practices like redlining and loan denials. Even today, studies show that Black applicants are more likely to be denied loans or offered higher interest rates, even when they have similar credit profiles to white applicants. This limits homeownership, business opportunities, and wealth building. The criminalization of Black poverty is another issue. For minor infractions, Black Americans are disproportionately targeted and fined, often for things like minor traffic violations or municipal code breaches. If they can't pay, fees escalate or turn into jail time, which further destabilizes their economic situations. This cycle of fines and fees, often referred to as poverty traps, keeps individuals locked in debt and criminal records that can hinder job opportunities. There's also the militarization of policing in Black communities, where police presence is often heightened compared to other neighborhoods. This has led to disproportionate rates of police violence against Black individuals, perpetuating fear, trauma, and mistrust. The school-to-prison pipeline is part of this problem, where Black children are more likely to face suspensions, expulsions, and even arrests in school for minor disciplinary issues. This exposure to the criminal justice system at a young age increases the likelihood of future incarceration. Black land loss is another topic. Following emancipation, Black families owned millions of acres of farmland, but due to discrimination in inheritance laws, lack of access to legal assistance, and outright theft, much of this land was lost. This loss of land represents a loss of wealth, community resources, and autonomy, impacting generations. Black entrepreneurs also face barriers. Despite being highly entrepreneurial, Black business owners often struggle to access venture capital, government contracts, or business development resources. These barriers mean that many promising businesses don't get the same chances to grow, impacting wealth creation and job opportunities within Black communities. Lastly, there's the erasure of Black contributions to culture, science, and innovation. Many inventions and advancements by Black Americans have gone unrecognized or have been attributed to others. From the work of Black scientists and inventors to contributions in agriculture and medicine, this erasure distorts history and minimizes Black excellence and ingenuity. Each of these issues reveals different layers of how structural racism affects Black Americans. Recognizing these systemic problems is essential for understanding how deeply rooted the challenges are and why meaningful change requires addressing not only the policies, but also the historical legacies that continue to impact Black communities today. One key area is the impact of cultural appropriation. Throughout history, elements of Black culture, from music to fashion, have been appropriated by mainstream culture without acknowledgement or respect for their origins. This not only erases the contributions of Black creators, but also often commercializes their culture while the original communities continue to face discrimination. Another significant topic is the criminal justice system's disproportionate impact on Black women. While much attention is often focused on Black men, Black women experience higher rates of police violence and are often subjected to harsher penalties in the criminal justice system. Issues like intersectionality reveal how race and gender together create unique challenges, such as the disproportionate rates of incarceration among Black women for drug-related offenses, often stemming from systemic inequalities. The struggle for representation in politics is also critical. Historically, Black Americans have been underrepresented in government, which has led to policies that do not reflect their needs or interests. While there have been strides toward increased representation, many barriers still exist, such as gerrymandering and voter suppression tactics that limit the influence of Black voters. Additionally, the phenomenon of environmental racism is significant. Black communities are often located near hazardous waste sites, pollution, and environmental degradation, which can lead to health disparities. Advocacy for environmental justice is crucial, as these communities fight for cleaner environments and fair treatment in environmental policies. Healthcare access, as mentioned earlier, is also compounded by the COVID-19 pandemic, which highlighted existing disparities. Black Americans faced higher rates of infection and mortality, revealing long-standing inequities in healthcare access and treatment. This situation has spurred discussions on health equity and the need for systemic reforms in public health. Furthermore, there's a growing movement advocating for reparations, which seeks to address the historical injustices and economic disadvantages faced by Black Americans. This conversation involves examining how reparative measures could help bridge the wealth gap and acknowledge the injustices of slavery, segregation, and systemic discrimination. Finally, the role of education in shaping narratives around race is crucial. The ongoing debates about how Black history is taught in schools often reflect broader societal tensions. Efforts to create inclusive curricula that accurately portray the experiences and contributions of Black Americans are essential in fostering understanding and empathy in future generations. These topics illustrate the complexities of the relationship between the government and Black Americans, highlighting the need for ongoing dialogue and action to address the inequities that persist in various aspects of life. The conversation is expansive and continually evolving as more people recognize these issues and advocate for change. One area worth mentioning is the impact of mass incarceration on Black families and communities. The U.S. has one of the highest incarceration rates in the world, and Black Americans are disproportionately represented in the prison system. This has far-reaching consequences, such as broken families, loss of income, and the stigma that follows individuals who have been incarcerated. The effects often ripple through generations, affecting children's education and economic prospects. Mental health is another critical issue. The stigma surrounding mental health in many Black communities can make it difficult for individuals to seek help. Additionally, the lack of access to culturally competent mental health care means that many Black Americans do not receive the support they need. Systemic factors, including trauma from racism and economic instability, further complicate mental health challenges. The topic of immigration is also relevant, particularly concerning Black immigrants from Africa and the Caribbean. They often face unique challenges, including discrimination within the broader immigrant community and among African Americans. This dynamic can create divisions, but also opportunities for solidarity in the fight against systemic racism. In the realm of technology and digital access, the digital divide affects many Black communities. Limited access to technology and high-speed internet can hinder educational and economic opportunities, especially highlighted during the pandemic when remote learning became the norm. Efforts to close this gap are essential for ensuring equitable access to resources and opportunities. Additionally, the impact of the historical and ongoing disenfranchisement of Black voters cannot be understated. Even as laws have changed to protect voting rights, tactics aimed at suppressing votes, like long lines at polling places, strict ID laws, and misinformation, persist. This ongoing struggle emphasizes the need for vigilance and advocacy to ensure fair access to the ballot. Furthermore, the effects of globalization and economic policies have also impacted Black workers. Many manufacturing jobs, which were once a source of stability for Black families, have moved overseas, contributing to economic instability in some communities. The push for fair labor practices and job creation remains crucial in addressing these economic disparities. Finally, the role of faith and spirituality in Black communities has been a source of strength and resilience. Churches and religious organizations have often served as centers for community organizing, support, and cultural preservation. They have played a pivotal role in civil rights movements and continue to be vital in advocacy for social justice. These issues highlight the multifaceted challenges faced by Black Americans and underscore the importance of comprehensive approaches to address the systemic inequalities that exist. The ongoing dialogue about these topics is crucial for fostering understanding, promoting justice, and creating a more equitable society. One significant area is the role of art and cultural expression as a form of resistance and empowerment in Black communities. Throughout history, Black artists, musicians, writers, and filmmakers have used their work to challenge stereotypes, tell their stories, and highlight social injustices. Movements like the Harlem Renaissance and more contemporary art forms continue to serve as powerful tools for advocacy and social change. The concept of white privilege is also crucial to understanding the broader context of systemic racism. White privilege refers to the unearned advantages that white individuals receive in various aspects of life, from education and employment to interactions with law enforcement. Recognizing this privilege is essential for fostering allyship and working toward racial equity. Another vital aspect is the ongoing fight against anti-Blackness within various communities, including within other racial and ethnic groups. This internalized racism can create divisions and complicate solidarity efforts. Building coalitions among different marginalized groups can help create a united front against systemic oppression. The significance of Black history and culture in the broader narrative of American history cannot be overstated. Understanding the contributions of Black Americans throughout history, such as in politics, science, and civil rights, is essential for a complete understanding of the nation's past. This recognition fosters a more inclusive view of American identity. Additionally, the discussion of intersectionality, which considers how various social identities, such as race, gender, sexuality, and class, intersect and affect individuals' experiences, is important. For instance, Black LGBTQ+ individuals often face unique challenges that are not fully addressed within either the racial justice or LGBTQ+ rights movements. Acknowledging these intersections is key to creating inclusive advocacy efforts. The impact of globalization and economic inequality also plays a role in shaping the experiences of Black Americans. Economic policies and trade agreements can disproportionately affect Black workers, especially in sectors like manufacturing and agriculture, which have seen significant job losses. Addressing these economic disparities is essential for creating equitable opportunities. The concept of restorative justice is gaining traction as an alternative to traditional punitive systems. This approach emphasizes healing, accountability, and community involvement, providing a way to address harm while focusing on rehabilitation rather than punishment, particularly in communities affected by systemic injustice. Lastly, the ongoing fight for civil rights continues to evolve. Recent movements, such as Black Lives Matter, highlight issues like police violence, systemic racism, and the need for comprehensive criminal justice reform. These movements underscore the importance of grassroots activism in pushing for change and holding institutions accountable. These various threads illustrate the complexity of the relationship between Black Americans and systemic unfairness, highlighting the need for multifaceted solutions that address the root causes of inequality and promote justice and equity for all. The conversation is rich and ongoing, reflecting the resilience and strength of Black communities in the face of adversity. One important aspect is the role of youth activism in shaping the future of Black communities. Young people have been at the forefront of movements like Black Lives Matter, using social media to organize, raise awareness, and advocate for change. Their engagement reflects a commitment to addressing systemic injustices and creating a more equitable society. The influence of historical trauma is another critical area. The legacies of slavery, segregation, and ongoing discrimination have lasting psychological effects on Black individuals and communities. Understanding historical trauma can help inform approaches to healing and addressing the mental health needs of Black Americans. The impact of language and communication in shaping perceptions of Black identity is also significant. The way media portrays Black individuals can influence public attitudes and policies. Efforts to promote positive representations and challenge stereotypes in media and popular culture are essential for fostering a more nuanced understanding of Black experiences. Another topic is the importance of economic empowerment and entrepreneurship within Black communities. While systemic barriers exist, there's a growing focus on supporting Black-owned businesses and fostering economic development. Initiatives that provide access to capital, mentorship, and resources can help create sustainable economic opportunities and reduce wealth disparities. Additionally, the conversation around environmental justice continues to grow. Climate change disproportionately affects marginalized communities, including Black Americans, who often have less access to resources for adaptation and recovery. Advocacy for policies that address both climate change and social justice is vital for ensuring equitable solutions. The historical significance of HBCUs, or historically Black colleges and universities, is also worth noting. These institutions have played a crucial role in providing access to education for Black students, fostering leadership, and promoting cultural pride. They continue to be vital in shaping the next generation of leaders and advocates. Finally, the ongoing need for policy reforms at local, state, and federal levels cannot be overstated. Comprehensive reforms addressing issues like criminal justice, healthcare access, education, and economic opportunity are essential for dismantling systemic barriers and promoting equity. Engaging in advocacy, voting, and civic participation are critical components of this work. Each of these topics adds depth to the conversation about Black Americans and the unfairness they face, emphasizing the need for continued awareness, dialogue, and action to promote justice and equality. The journey toward equity is ongoing, with many layers and complexities that require thoughtful engagement and commitment from individuals and communities. One significant area is the impact of historical legislation and policies, such as the GI Bill after World War II. While many veterans benefited from this legislation, Black veterans often faced barriers in accessing the housing and educational opportunities it provided. This disparity contributed to long-term wealth gaps between Black and white families. The influence of culture and identity in shaping the Black experience is also crucial. The celebration of Black culture through events like Juneteenth and Black History Month fosters community pride and awareness. These observances encourage discussions about history, resilience, and the ongoing fight for civil rights. Another important topic is the role of social justice organizations and grassroots movements. Organizations such as the NAACP, Urban League, and more recent groups like Dream Defenders and Movement for Black Lives play vital roles in advocating for policy changes, providing community resources, and mobilizing voters. These organizations are essential in addressing systemic issues and pushing for change. The significance of allyship and coalition building is also critical. Effective social justice movements often involve collaboration across different communities and identities. Building solidarity among various marginalized groups can amplify voices, share resources, and create a more united front against systemic oppression. Additionally, the effects of globalization and international perspectives on race are increasingly relevant. The Black Lives Matter movement has sparked discussions on racial justice worldwide, showing how interconnected struggles for equity and human rights are. This global perspective can inform local movements and highlight the shared experiences of marginalized communities. The concept of wellness and holistic approaches to health is gaining attention in Black communities. Recognizing the importance of mental, emotional, and physical well-being is essential, especially in addressing the cumulative effects of stress from systemic racism. Initiatives promoting wellness, self-care, and community support are vital for fostering resilience. Moreover, the role of technology and innovation in shaping economic opportunities is important. As the digital landscape evolves, ensuring equitable access to technology and digital literacy is crucial for Black Americans to thrive in a changing economy. Programs aimed at bridging the digital divide can empower communities and create pathways to success. Finally, discussions about reparations continue to gain traction. The idea of providing reparations for the historical injustices faced by Black Americans has led to various proposals and debates. This conversation addresses how to acknowledge the legacy of slavery and systemic discrimination and create reparative measures to address economic disparities. These layers illustrate the ongoing complexities and challenges faced by Black Americans in the context of systemic unfairness, highlighting the need for continued advocacy, education, and systemic change. The conversations surrounding these topics are vital for fostering understanding and promoting a more equitable society. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and leave a comment below. See you next time.